Welcome to Touch Technology Review. Today, I'm going to show you how to set up and use the camera app on iOS. This tutorial is suitable for those of you that have never used an iPhone before, and even anyone who's had an iPhone but just wants to know how to optimize the camera app to get the best possible quality in both your photos and when shooting videos. The first thing I'm going to show you how to do is to go into the settings application and optimize all the settings, and then I'll take you through each of the aspects of the camera app itself. So without any further delay, let's go ahead and open up settings on our iPhone. To do that, look for the settings icon on your home screen and tap on it, and then scroll down until you get to the camera app. At the top is the video resolution, and you can choose between 720p all the way up to 4K at 60 frames per second. Keep in mind that when you do choose the high resolution, such as 4K 60, will consume around 400 megabytes of storage per minute of recording. Leave the Show PAL Formats toggle switch on. This just shows you the different resolutions for PAL versus NTSC. This tends to be information that is more suited to video editors. HDR video, that's optional. If you do turn this on, when you're shooting video, it will record in HDR, and that will aim to give you the most even exposure under challenging lighting conditions. This is great when you're shooting indoors and you want to get a little bit of those highlights back into the mid-range. Auto frames per second will reduce the frame rate to 24 frames per second to improve low light video. The next option is lock camera. When you have this setting on, it doesn't allow the automatic switching of cameras whilst recording video. The next is lock white balance. I tend to leave this one turned to off and allow the phone to automatically apply white balance as I'm moving from one scene to another. If you're going for a more consistent look, and this normally applies to those of you editing video in post-production, you might want to turn this option on so that the white balance is consistent from scene to scene, and you can make your adjustments to the white balance in your video editor. The next option has to do with slow-mo recording, and this might vary depending on which iPhone you have. I have the option to choose between 1080p HD at 120 or 1080p at 240. On later generations of iPhone, you'll see even higher resolutions available for slow motion recording. Choose the desired resolution in this section. The next option is formats. You can choose between high efficiency and most compatible. High efficiency is more suited to when you're sharing your files amongst other Apple users. If you tend to share your files with Android or Windows devices, you're better off choosing most compatible, as it will export the photos out as JPEG and video files as H.264, which is more broadly compatible. So choose according to how you're going to be sharing your files here. The next option is Pro RAW, and this is for photo capture. Pro RAW is a 12-bit file format that uses the linear DNG format to retain more information and dynamic range in the file, providing additional flexibility when editing exposure and white balance. Each file, however, is 25 megabytes, so you will require more storage when shooting with Apple Pro RAW. The next option is preserve settings. I tend to leave all of these switched on so that it remembers the last setting I used when I exit out of the camera app and go back in. The next one is record stereo sound. So for most purposes, this will always be turned on. The next option is use volume up for burst. And as it implies, when you use the volume up button for the shutter and hold it down, it will continuously take photos whilst you're holding the volume up button. The next one turns on scan for QR code. So every time you point the camera at a QR code, it will automatically scan the code and give you a link to the associated website. The next option is show detected text, and this will use Apple's AI to scan through text on your photos and videos. And when you tap your finger on that text, it will automatically convert it to editable text. In the composition section, turn the grid on. This helps with composition. You can also turn on the level to balance your horizons. The next is to mirror the front camera. I tend to leave this one turned off. And view outside the frame, which will just show you some of the extra content outside of the frame, which is most applicable when using the wide angle lens. You can either turn this on or off. It won't make much difference to the actual photo itself. The next is scene detection, which automatically improves photos of various scenes using intelligent image recognition. I would say you should leave this on for best results. Prioritize faster shooting, intelligently adjust image quality when rapidly pressing the shutter. The next option, lens correction, you should turn this on, and this will make the rounded edges that you see on a wide-angle lens appear straighter. Next option is Smart HDR. Smart HDR for photos intelligently blends the best parts of separate exposures into a single image. So to explain that, what it will do is it will blend the highlights and the shadows together and create a well-exposed image with more midtones. So that's how you set up your camera for optimal results. Now that we've set up all of those parameters, we can now go into the camera app itself by tapping on the app on the home screen or swiping down from the top right-hand corner of the phone and tapping on the camera app. Just above the red shutter button at the base of the screen, you'll see a menu that allows you to toggle between the different modes within the camera app. The first one is time-lapse, slow-mo, video, photo, portrait mode, and Pano for panoramic mode. If we go back to the first option, which is time-lapse, we can take a time-lapse video. To get best results for a time-lapse video, you need to place the iPhone on a tripod or tabletop stand, set up your scene, and then tap on the exposure setting on the top left-hand corner. Tap on the slider just above the shutter button to adjust your exposure, plus or minus, and then tap on the record button once and your time-lapse video will start recording. When you're finished, tap on the record button again to stop the video. The next option is slow-mo video. This allows you to record videos in slow motion. If you look in the top right-hand corner, you'll see the resolution and frame rate corresponds to the settings that I set up in the previous step. By the way, if you'd like to change the resolution and frame rate right here within the app, you can do so by tapping on HD and frame rate in the top right-hand corner, and you can toggle between the options available here. Once again, you can tap on the exposure button, then tap on screen and adjust the plus minus on the exposure before recording, and then tap on the record button to start recording. The next option is video. Once again, if you look on the top right-hand corner, you'll see we have the option to change our video resolution. If you tap on the left-hand side, you can change between 4K and HD. And on the right-hand side, you can tap between your different frame rates from 24, 25, 30, and 60 frames per second. Tapping on the left-hand side in the top of the screen here, you'll see there is the exposure setting. Once again, tap anywhere on the screen and then use the slider just above the shutter button to adjust the exposure. You can tap on the 0.5, 1 or 2 times icon to change between the different lenses. 0.5 is for widescreen, 1 is for mid-range, and 2 is for telephoto. You'll notice that when you press record, there's a white icon that appears on the bottom right-hand corner. If you tap on this and use your finger to move up and down, you can zoom in and out whilst the video is recording. The next option is photo mode, and here you can take a standard photo. On the top right-hand corner, you'll see this circular icon, which is for live photo. If you tap this on, every time you take a photo, it takes an Apple live photo. And this is kind of like a small 3 or 4 second video clip that then allows you to go and choose the best frame within that clip. So live photo is ideal when doing action photography, and also a pretty cool effect to have some motion in your photos. Once again, in photo mode, you can choose between the different lenses and simply tap on the photo button to take your photo. The next option is portrait mode. Portrait mode allows you to adjust the depth of field in your photo. Depth of field refers to the amount of focus throughout the scene. So if you have a shallow aperture, you'll have a greater degree of background blur. And if you close down the aperture, you'll have more objects within that scene in focus, so everything will remain sharp. So to change the aperture in portrait mode, tap on the F icon on the right-hand corner of the screen, and then a f-stop slider will appear above the shutter button. If you scroll to the right, you'll get to f1.6, which gives you the greatest depth of field. And if you scroll left all the way to the right, you get to f16, which is the smallest aperture and that will give you the greatest amount of focus on all objects within the scene, so everything remains sharp. In portrait mode, there's also different lighting effects, from natural light to studio light, contour light, stage light mono, and high key light studio. If you tap on the F icon on the left-hand side, you'll bring up some other sub-menu options. You can turn the flash on or off. You can tap on the plus minus button to adjust the exposure, tap on the timer button to select between a 3-second or 10-second timer or turn it off. And you can also apply a filter before taking the photo. The other great thing about portrait mode is that you can change the settings after the fact. So to do so, tap on your photo in the camera roll, tap on edit, and you'll notice just under the photo, there's a depth of field slider that allows you to adjust that f-stop setting after you've already taken the photo. So if you've changed your mind and decided you want to have less background blur when you shot on f1.4, just scroll along to the left until you get to f16 and your photo will be completely in focus. Or conversely, if you shot on f16 at the time of taking the photo and you want to add more depth of field, scroll to the right and bring that slider back down to 1.4, and you'll notice that your subject will be in focus and the background will be completely out of focus. If you tap on the adjust icon, you can change the exposure, brilliance, highlights, contrast, shadows, etc. in order to improve the quality of the photo. Tap on filters to apply a filter after the fact, and you can tap on the crop icon to change the crop of the photo. You can use a freeform crop or choose between square and wallpaper, and also vertical and horizontal crops. So now that we've had a look at that, let's go back to the camera app and I'll quickly take you through the final feature, which is the Pano mode, which stands for panorama. To use it, all you need to do is to point your camera phone in front of you and tap on the shutter button, and then move your phone to the right and keep going as far as you'd like to go to capture the entire scene. Tap on stop, and then you'll get a widescreen panoramic image that the iPhone will stitch together based on all the photos it captures of that scene. So this is ideal for landscapes or interiors where you've just run out of room and your widescreen angle camera can't capture the whole scene. Go into Pano mode and scroll across to the right and you'll be able to capture that entire image. So hopefully you found this information helpful. If you did, feel free to hit me up with a like. If you have any comments or questions, drop them in the comments box below. See you on the next one. Bye for now.